The following podcast is intended for mature audiences. If you enjoy our work, please like, comment, subscribe, and follow the links in the description. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Greetings and salutations, listener. It is I, Eric J. Chucky, joined as always by my fellow nerd, The Boy.
Hey, what a delightfully baseline entrance you've given me this week.
Well, last year when we did this, it was my hetero life partner. But welcome to the Two Nerds Podcast. This is the 2015 year in review. 2015 was a shitty year outside the podcast, but inside the podcast, all things are safe.
That's true. I don't know. Like, personal stuff may have been kind of lame, but nerd stuff was pretty good this year.
Nerd stuff was good. I meant more like world stuff.
Oh,
world stuff was not so good.
No, I don't much into the world stuff. That's not really my bag. Listener, I'm in my nerd cave. I like my nerd cave. It's better here.
But much like last year when we did this, we're just going to see if anything has changed really from where we stood in the podcast we had through the year. And then talk about like our best ofs and whatever the fuck else we really want to talk about.
Basically, as the name implies, we're just talking about 2015, as a whole.
So there's the fighting game tournament, which is coming up. We've been practicing.
Yep, the fighting game tournament happened last year, right about this time, and you can expect it pretty soon here. We're practicing up on various games, so we're not completely out of sorts on them, because we didn't play a lot of fighting games in 2015, as a whole.
Well, and when we did our fighting game tournament in 2015, there were a lot of those games that we had not played in forever. So, you and I both kept grabbing the wrong character and doing stupid shit.
And while that was entertaining for us, it didn't make for a very competitive tournament. As always, we're sad about the fact that we probably won't be able to record the tournament itself for you guys, but we play it on a bunch of different consoles, on stuff we have no way to record. So
I'm hoping within the next couple of years, we'll be able to record the stuff.
And then you guys can watch us fail and be bad at fighting games. and talk in the comments about what scrub lords we are.
Because we are the scrubbiest of scrub lords. This was a year of self-indulgence. As I'm looking at our podcasts, a lot of them were very, the stuff we like. Stuff that has influenced us. Not much of that has really changed.
This year of the Two Nerds Podcast was very introspective, I think is a better way of phrasing it.
Well, the funny thing is, it's what the people asked for. I mean, it's what they were like, well, I want to know what you feel about books and, what kind of graphic novels you guys like and shit like that.
And so we aimed to deliver. There's the Colt Regan podcast, that one I was particularly proud of.
Yeah.
Obviously we're still covering the Russelling, at least for now. Perpetually, at least for now.
This time last year, we were just sort of becoming disenfranchised with the WWE. Oh, how far it has fallen.
We were like, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it got better. Nope.
I still haven't finished Jessica Jones.
Because he's a lamerson.
Because watching TV is hard.
He's a lamerson. Don't let him lie to you.
But we did finish Fallout, and this is a perfect time to talk about that.
Yeah.
Do we want to do that spoiler free?
Let's do the standard double header. Some spoiler free stuff, and then the blank, and then some spoiler stuff.
I liked it. I thought it was a really good game. It had a couple of idiosyncrasies. My quick save or auto save did not happen automatically as much as it should have. Or rather, as much as I felt it should have.
Whereas I did not have this problem. I had a problem where I had forgotten to save occasionally, but it wasn't often enough that it bothered me too much.
Yeah, and it just sort of put me off of it a couple of times. But I will say that Fallout 4 has been the first game I've beaten, within a month of its release in a long fucking time.
Yeah, he looked at me 2 or 3 weeks after the game came out. It's Is this one of those things where I should let you beat the game first because you're more of the Fallout fan? I was like, no, I don't care. Just don't spoil it for me. He's like, I wouldn't do that. And then he beat the game like the next day. He was mad on that storyline, son.
I liked it. I dug the game in general. I'm looking forward to going back to it at some point. Do I even really need to talk about with spoilers? Is there anything that really bears mentioning?
I mean, there's some specific storyline stuff. I'll say that, as a for instance, I'm a little annoyed at one particular reveal that happens in the main storyline because they aimed for surprising and unexpected, and they came away closer to WCW Roost, WCW Pointless Swerve.
No, I didn't feel that way.
It didn't quite get all the way there, but they intentionally mislead you, very hard, to making a different conclusion just so they can swerve you.
Yeah, and it's not done very well.
No, it's a good reveal, don't get me wrong, and it's, very interesting.
No, the act of the misleading is not done very well. It's very obvious.
Yeah, that's true.
Once they point it out the first time, you're like, oh, okay. But it wasn't so bad that it detracted from the movie or the game as a whole. I felt. I mean, I felt it was still really, really a strong game. The building simulator was great. I liked being able to check up on and dress up my townspeople.
Yeah, I liked playing The Sims. It was fun.
Yeah, Animal Crossing, really.
Yeah, because, the building mechanics could be a little better, but they were just a little... I'm on console, so there's only so much I can do.
Once we get mods on the Xbox One, we will be...
Because there's some very simple mods that I'm sure they'll give us on the Xbox One that will help.
I mean, that's this is a really introspective year. There wasn't a lot of we covered this, Age of Ultron. Guess what? It's still good.
Yeah, Age of Ultron's still good. I still have the same opinions for Age of Ultron that I have had. I still have the same opinions about Star Wars that I had a week ago.
I'm so long in 2015.
Let's see here. Right now, I'm just going through the movies I watched this last year to determine what my favorite movie of the year was, because I know that's something we wanted to cover.
Yeah.
Because in terms of the specific podcasts, I don't really have any updates to give you.
No, yeah, this was a quiet, very personal year, and I'm fine with that. There was also a lot less of me doing stuff because Billy likes to step up and talk about wrestling with you. I will say, it's actually kind of a tough choice for me for movie of the year between Age of Ultron and Fury Road.
I was actually going to say the exact same thing. Now, I want to make something very clear. I liked Star Wars a lot, but in terms of my favorite movie of 2015, Fury Road or Age of Ultron, really.
What about Kung Fury? That came out in 2015.
Well, I watched it in 2016, so...
Oh, well, there you go. So it doesn't count. Let's see.
Sure, that's...
Well,
that's
and what about Fast 5?
Fast 5 was from 2011.
2011. What was the last one?
Furious 7 came out in 2015. I watched that in 2015, and that was an incredibly fun, dumb movie, but not my favorite movie of the year.
I would say probably Age of Ultron edges out, just because... I don't know, man. I guess it maybe is just that connection between me and superheroes that I've had since my youth. But, those characters feel so much bigger, so much more mythical. Which we talk about all the time, yeah. And we don't need to retread that ground. But, that aspect of it really sucks me in, and I'm like, yeah. Whereas Fury Road, as fucking amazing as it was, it didn't...
Looking at your list, which doesn't mirror mine as much as it did in 2014.
Yeah, we
watched a lot of different stuff, but there is one movie that overlaps, and I think it's a great comparison. I really like Star Wars Episode 7. I like Ant-Man about as much. They're both very fun. But, this is the reason I'm torn between Fury Road and Age of Ultron, because I have the same feelings. I love superheroes. I don't mean to fucking tell you that, listener. If you've heard the previous podcasts, you're well aware of how much I like superheroes. But Fury Road was... was such a surprise.
Yeah.
I expected Age of Ultron to be good. Fury Road came out of nowhere and blew me away.
See, and I expected Age of Ultron to be as good as Avengers, and it surprised me as well.
In that it was better.
Yeah, in that it was so much better.
Because as a guy who loves the Avengers more than you, quite a bit, Age of Ultron's better.
There are a couple of scenes that were slow. It's not like it's my favorite movie ever.
It's not a perfect film, but by God, it was good.
It's no Guardians of the Galaxy.
Jesus Christ, Guardians of the Galaxy is nigh on a perfect movie.
That's...
Yeah, in terms of movies that came out this year, that I watched this year, I'd say that one's my favorite, by hands down.
Yeah.
And
now, if you had watched Kung Fury a few days earlier...
So would be my favorite. Kung Fury is awful and amazing.
It's fantastic.
Now, if we're counting all the movies I watched this year, I also watched Guardians of the Galaxy a bunch this year, so that wins by default.
There was actually a film I watched that I thought was pretty cool. A couple of them, actually. Pontypool. Really cool movie. I'd check it out. It's kind of a zombie film. What was the other one?
I watched a lot of unexpectedly depressing shit this year.
I mean, Captain EO, of course. But life-changing cinematic feature that was. Nightbreed. It's a 1990 horror movie. But camp horror action adventure kind of movie. Like the kind of shit they made in the late 80s.
Yep.
But they just don't really make anymore.
That's true.
Like an adult version of that movie with Howie Mandel where he's a blue monster.
It's an adult version of Little Monsters?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But I really dug that. That was really cool.
I watched, Road to Paloma, and it's the movie Jason Momoa made.
Dead Snow, Red vs. Dead, the sequel to Dead Snow. If you've never seen Dead Snow, that's fine. Crap movie compared to this one. This movie wasn't a masterpiece or anything, but it did not take itself seriously in the best ways, and I really enjoyed it.
Rage was another one I watched this year. It's a Nick Cage movie. I'm just listing off the movies I watched this year that I grabbed out of nowhere and turned out unexpectedly really depressing.
If you guys haven't seen Dark Dungeons, the independent transformation from chick tract to movie about Dungeons and Dragons, you should check it out if you like D&D.
You know what? Thank you for telling me. I should check it out. I haven't seen that.
No, you haven't. And I accidentally deleted it off the computer when we reformatted it, so I'd have to shell out the $5 to get it again. But I would. It was worth it.
Clean Skin from 2012. It's a Sean Bean movie. Another movie that I watched, having grabbed it out of nothingness.
90 minutes of Sean Bean just washing.
It ended up unexpectedly depressing. These aren't bad movies. I'm not saying they're bad movies. It's just
They're downers.
They're downers.
They are a tragedy.
Yeah.
Speaking of downers, also saw Jurassic World this year.
Hey-oh. That wasn't a bad flick.
No, okay, there have been 4 entertainment thingies in recent memory that I have expected to be pretty damn good, and they have failed at that. They've still been good, just not as much as as they should have been, as their pedigree dictated they should be. Lost World, or Jurassic World, excuse me. The Avengers, the original one. Fucking Undertale, the game. And Star Wars.
Congratulations, you just started 4 separate fights with the internet.
Well, you know what? Y'all can talk to me in the comments, because I have been thinking long and hard about the reasons behind this, and god damn it, I think I finally actually have them. So, come at me, bro. I'm fucking ripped.
I don't have any experiences like that recently. Nothing big nerd-wise has disappointed me that's out yet. I mean, we all heard the podcast we made, basically bitching for an hour and a half, mostly me, about Batman and the Infinite Sadness and its upcoming guarantee, basically, to make me angry. If I'm dumb enough to watch it, let's be fair.
Yeah,
That's on me if I am, listener. Oh.
So, speaking of games, speaking of Fallout, speaking of Undertale, we are video game players. What would you say your favorite game of the year was?
Like that came out this year?
Yeah,
because I'm usually a couple years.
You played a couple of them. You played Batman Car Simulator.
Oh God! All right, like. Excuse me, Eric's pile of shit that he keeps where I put my feet while we podcast is knocking over.
Just trying to create a small shrine to Papa Nurgle. I don't see why you need to debase it.
Anyway, alright. By all rights, Arkham Knight should be my game of the year. It has a good plot with a solid twist. It has a solid Batman the Animated Series, voice cast. It has, by that I mean Kevin Conroy's Batman. It has really good pacing. It has, again, I'm coming to a big caveat, so I'm going to leave the caveat out going into that. It has the combat and systems from the Arkham games that I love and have loved since the first one popped onto the scene and broke like a 20-year curse of Batman games being awful.
And I also feel like they refined a lot of the combat systems. Really, the only complaint with the combat systems I have in this game is the accidental Batusi button. And that didn't seem to bother you as much as it did me.
That's because the accidental Batusi button is you fucking up.
Right, but like, when you're crouched and near an enemy, I think it's the Y button. You press it and Batman hops up to block or some shit.
There's a contextual button that can either do a takedown, or if you're not quite close enough to do the takedown, does the Batusi.
Because I would jam on it yeah, fucking get him, and Batman's like, oh, do a dance.
But I mean, they
got me shot a lot.
They changed a bunch of the mechanics. They did a bunch of really cool, very Batman shit.
Yeah, I agree.
Where they included you could take down a bunch of goons all at once in a very Batman-esque, mega combo takedown. It was very fun, very well done. I really liked all the challenges and the puzzles, and I'm not a guy who likes puzzles in video games, and I liked all the puzzles in this game. Again, big caveat coming, we're not mentioning that for now. I liked, all the Predator challenges really started to take on higher puzzle elements because they added more and more special units that you had to work around or work through, and it was about applying the logic and the mechanics available to you to solve this little riddle, and I loved them. Now, I said puzzle and riddle, and I but you should be aware that none of that applies to the actual Riddler's shit. And there's a big reason for that. The big reason is the goddamned Batmobile. The Batmobile's fun for about 2 hours.
Really? 2 whole hours?
If you space it throughout the game, the actual Batmobile around town portions, because that makes you feel very Batman. It's very cool.
Not if you drive like I do.
If you're not terrible at it.
Batman very rarely nicks a corner and goes careening off in a 360 into the night, while mooks will point and laugh at him.
But if you're not terrible...
Zip lines out of the drink. You saw nothing! And off into the night.
And then orders up a new Batmobile on the cheap. But if you're not terrible at the mechanics, they're really fun. They make you feel very Batman-esque. It's very cool. And that's 2 hours of a 20-hour investment they expect you to put in that goddamn car. Because they tie so much of the game not into the Batmobile and chasing down mooks, which is fun, or chasing down Firefly or whatever, which is fun if challenging. Sometimes frustrating, but into the goddamned Bat Tank. I tried to give it the benefit of the doubt, listener, I did. I tried to, give it all the credit in the world. That shit was the tiny Bronco. That shit was the Mako from Mass Effect 1. The Bat Tank sucks.
I preferred its maneuverability to the actual Batmobile, which, near as I can tell, Batman has a giant invisible gun that he places the Batmobile into and then pulls the trigger on, and then just tries his best to steer it.
Well, it is powered by a jet engine.
Tone it down, Bats.
Maybe go to a 4-cylinder?
Yeah, jeez.
But
how the fuck did he get around actual Gotham in that thing? Is there never any traffic there?
Well, you're playing Batman, you aren't Batman. Presumably Batman's much better at it than you. Or Bruce Wayne cuts a lot of checks to insurance companies.
I'm very sorry about your Miata.
But the Batmobile's fun for about 2 hours. The Bat Tank is fun for about 20 minutes. And don't get me wrong, it controls very well. It's not bad controls, it's just, I'm not here to play this fucking game.
Well, yeah.
I'm here to be Batman, I'm not here to play a tank game. I'm not here to play World of fucking Tanks, I'm here to play Batman.
I never finished it. I got a little bit into the story, and I really liked the story. Everything Boy says is correct. It all it's really good. Great voice acting, good storytelling, interesting mysteries, like good detective missions. I missed those from Arkham Asylum. I mean, the drawback was it was an open world game. I vastly preferred Arkham Asylum's setting, not just because it was Arkham Asylum, but because the interiors are a lot more.
Some people I listen to on the internet have said, and there's an argument to be made here. I personally love open world games, but there's an argument to be made that a smaller, more contained experience allows for greater level of attention to detail in the experience, and thus a better experience overall.
Sure. I mean, like, if you want to get that way, it's the difference between the overworld in the original Legend of Zelda and the overworld in Ocarina of Time. The overworld in Ocarina of Time is a big fucking dumb empty grass field. Yes, there are monsters there. Yes, there's the occasional surprise, but it's not the fucking overworld to any of the Zeldas before it, where you've got little nooks and crannies to
because those
explore.
were much more contained.
They were contained, and they were purposefully designed for you to go through and have a challenge on each screen. That's not the case in open world games of today, we'll say, of a more modern generation, because they want you to feel that sense of exploration and speed, so they put millions of miles between shit for no reason.
And they want you to feel as though you have the freedom to go wherever you want, and they use the term sandbox a lot, which at its best is a very like a magical little area where you are free to create and enjoy your experience as you see fit. More often than not, it's just a big box full of tiny rocks.
Yeah, I mean, pretty rocks.
But a very
Sometimes
small,
you get that
good for
high-grade
clumping.
Sand that's like pink.
And it'll clump and make shapes, but ultimately it's just rocks. Just a big box full of rocks. And I would say, while Arkham Knight did the open world well, the way it enabled you to do the open world, again, specifically the fucking Bat Tank, took so much joy out of that game for me that I haven't even 100% completed it. Today's the only Arkham game I've ever played that doesn't have a 100% completion on my save.
Well, and that's what the point I was
And it's entirely down to that fucking tank.
Is like, even though I struggled, even though I accidentally did the Batusi, I was fucking working through the fights, I was working through the Predator missions, I was doing side stuff, I really wanted to rescue all those firefighters. In fact, I made zero progress in that game because I thought I had to rescue them fast. So I was just flying around town rescuing firefighters and cops. Because I was like, no, they're protectors, it is their duty and I will save them.
That's the thing Batman would do.
Definitely, yeah. So, I was real into character, I was digging the fuck out of it. And then, the third time I drove by a point, and Arkham Knight was like, hey, guess what, Bats? There's a big fucking bomb in the ground. Uh-oh, I'm gonna blow up a bunch of innocent people. I guess you better sit here and shoot my robots for 20 minutes and disarm the stupid thing in the ground. I'm Batman. I can't just drive past and go, your mission is dumb, I'm not doing it. You got to save the people.
Mm-hmm. And I did all that shit. And all that stupid bullshit. Turns out if you don't do it all before you defeat the Arkham Knight, which, spoilers, is not the end of the game, you get a little Easter egg shows up in that you get to fight Slade goddamn Wilson. Deathstroke shows up to take over the mercenaries.
That's cool.
Yeah, I kicked Deathstroke's ass. It was great. But unfortunately, instead of a cool fucking ninja fight versus Deathstroke, I had to fight him in a big fucking tank.
That's so fucking dumb.
Yup. That's what did it. That was the last straw. I could have fought Deathstroke like a ninja, and instead I have to fight him in a big tank. It's the biggest, bestest tank ever, but it's still just a big tank. I got to play cat and mouse with him while fucking jump jetting around aisles and shooting him and running away. It was stupid.
Man, what a waste of a good Deathstroke.
Yeah, it's fucking Deathstroke. That would have been a cool-ass ninja fight. From what I understand in Arkham Origins, it was a cool-ass ninja fight.
Yeah, that's probably because we didn't play that one. But, yeah, I mean, I feel you. The last thing I did in that game was go check out the second thing with Man-Bat. And I was like, this is tight. but I have other things to do right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I have not picked it back up since. I am teetering on the edge of telling the boy, just tell me the plot so we can nerd about it a little bit, because I don't know if I'm ever going to finish that fucking game.
But, that's me bitching for, about 10, 15 minutes.
No, it's only like 8.
That's good. But by all rights, Arkham Knight, given how big of a Batman fan I am, should be my game of the year. It's not because of the drawbacks. Therefore, the title goes to Fallout 4. Fallout 4 was the game that came out in 2015 that I enjoyed playing the most in 2015. And there are others on the internet who like to disparage it and say things like it's not a role-playing game, or it's not a good game in general. Those people are fucking wrong.
You know, I don't think I'm going to do a solo video on this so much. So I'm gonna bitch about Batman for a minute here, if you don't mind. Is that okay with you, listener? Carnival? So, I may have said this on the podcast before. I honestly don't remember, because I say it a lot in personal conversations with the boy. It has been a point of contention we've had for years. And I don't think you really agreed with me too hard until fairly recently. RPGs, as what they were in the 90s, don't really exist anymore. RPG is now a sauce that you put on
other games.
You know, you can have an action RPG like Mass Effect or like Fallout 4, where the bulk of what you're doing is fighting, or I would argue like God of War. Because not so much, you're playing the role of a character. Fucking every video game has you playing the role of a character. But you're making important decisions, you're leveling up, you're choosing your abilities.
Yeah, because I would say that the very inferior, you have to have important, meaningful choice, and you have to play the role of a character. We're specifically making fun of someone specific here.
Specifically.
Is not as important as the mechanics of the RPG. Because in a lot of old school RPGs, you don't have any choice.
No, yeah.
It's not
Final
a choice.
Fantasy 1 is, other than what dudes you take with you and what shit you put on them.
It's the only choices you have are mechanical. You don't have any storyline choices. That's new in video games. That's not an inherent fundamental. It's not an inherent fundamental concept of the RPG. An inherent fundamental concept of the RPG is mechanical. The ability to build and customize your character is more important than some inferior, hard to pin down, well, did I have enough meaningful choice? No. It's mechanical differentiation that makes an RPG.
Now, that meaningful choice is cool.
I prefer it.
Yeah, I love having it. Like in Army of Two, the 40th Day, the one where they went to China. I loved that we had like options, and they did in the first Army of Two also.
Mm-hmm, yes, it did.
There were like action points where it was like, all right, are we going to do this, or are we going to do this? How do we handle the situation?
And your choices had an effect on what happened.
Now, I wouldn't say Army of Two is an RPG.
No.
I don't even think it really has much RPG sauce, because you can change your equipment, but
you can change your guns.
That's an adventure
upgrade
game
your
staple.
armor.
That's like a Legend of Zelda staple.
Yeah, exactly. I would say it has to go a little farther. And a great example is, although I'm not super happy with a lot of the changes they made to Fallout 4, Fallout 4 still has everything you need to qualify, in my opinion, as an RPG.
Sure.
It has a level system where your character gets greater in power the more you play them.
And you get to pick little individual decision points of what power to access.
It has mechanical differentiation and customization within that system. And it has a gear system. I prefer a fairly robust gear system in my RPGs because that helps your mechanical differentiation.
There's also, you do have those story choices. I mean, every time you have a conversation with somebody, even if the dialogue routes you back to the continuation point of the tree, because it does in most RPGs, you are still choosing what character you are playing and how they act and how they react to situations. And in Fallout, that can affect how your companions perceive you. If you're a dick for no reason, Hancock specifically will get tired of your shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's certainly not the only case. But
if you do pointlessly evil shit, Piper will grow tired of you.
Yeah, and that's cool. So the RPG sauce can be super fucking light, like your God of War clones, where you have some trees to pick from.
or it can be very, very, it can be mainly an RPG, just, not the classic turn-based RPG that olden nerds love.
I think maybe Dragon Age Origins is a really good example here.
I think that was probably the last real
heavy sauce RPG.
Yeah.
It's more of a soup, really.
Yeah. Mostly RPG, some chunks of other stuff floating in it.
But they're
even the later Dragon Age games are.
Oh yeah, sure. They're very action oriented. But when I'm looking on Steam, if I look up a JRPG, a Japanese role playing game, whatever the long version they decide to put out or the short version, I am going to get role playing games from Japan. But JRPG no longer means turn-based active time battle system, menus and dudes.
It no longer means Final Fantasy 6 and or 7.
Well, and the other games that were around that time as well, Suikoden, fucking Xenogears, etc., etc. It can be a fucking action RPG. It can be a dating sim with rhythm-based button fighting parts.
It can be Undertale.
I'm going to be brief about this because I do plan on talking about Undertale more in depth a little later. But Undertale, and the reason I use it as an example in comparison to Fallout 4 is a lot of these voices on the internet will go, Fallout 4 is not an RPG, Undertale is either contender for or is Game of the Year.
And an RPG.
Definitely an RPG. Which I balk at. I think they're both RPGs. But, you're going to shit on Fallout 4 for not giving you a lot of choice. Undertale basically has two choices. That you either continue to or don't continue to choose throughout the game. And if you stop continuing to choose one of them, congratulations, you've chosen the other no matter what you do. That's two choices. That's binary as fuck. Okay?
That's one less choice than the ending of Mass Effect 3 gave you.
I mean, yeah, if you want to go that route. Its battle system, while creative and an interesting use of, storytelling and all that shit, an ingenious sort of little twist on what you do in an RPG fight, is a bullet hell. And, I mean, if you like bullet hells, that's fine. I don't.
And also, that's not what an RPG is.
Gosh, no.
That's bullet hell. That's a different game.
I mean, that's interesting. And I'm not shitting on that at all. What a really interesting...
I sort of am. This game sounds like something I would hate.
Oh, no, you would hate it. But it's a creative way to go. It's a creative decision to be made there. But a bullet hell is not an RPG. Undertale has great characters, great story, really interesting use of the medium. Graphics and a presentation very similar to classic RPGs like Earthbound. But the battle systems, the dearth of equipment, I think there's maybe a dozen items in the whole game that are equipable. Everything else is just varying degrees of silly potions. It is not heavy RPG. It's not. But it's still an RPG. Just the same way as Fallout, despite the fact that your gun firing is no longer governed by the dice in the background. It is governed by your skill. Unless you're using VATS, in which case it's governed by the dice in the background.
You have the option to do either one.
Yeah, I prefer to use me hands, because I grew up playing GoldenEye.
Now, your damage is governed by the dice in the background and your stats, but...
Sure.
But the actual whether or not you hit is determined by your skill with the gun.
Which, I mean, if you guys recall our E3 podcast we did this year about Fallout, is what I said. That's fine, I'll take that. I want to hit something when I hit it. If my physical particles touch the physical particles of the thing I am aiming at, I want that thing to have been impacted by it. That's all I ask. And they gave that to me, and I said, thank you, and I have touched VATS all of twice in my playthrough.
I use VATS a lot, partially because it's useful for various things throughout the game, partially because it helps me capture and keep some of that old school Fallout feel.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, there's, you don't have quite the same amount of options as you did in previous Fallout games for what your character can and can't say. And that is because partially of the voice acting, partially also because that town building system is fucking huge.
Like, I guarantee that's a big chunk of the game.
Like physical memory speaking.
Yeah.
They're both RPGs. Ironically, my game of the year, neither of those.
My game of the year is definitely Fallout 4.
Fallout 4.
It's not a perfect game, but I had a lot of fun with it, and it's a really, really good continuation of the series, even if I am mad, and I am, about some changes they've made.
Fallout 4 is a really good game, and I had a really good time with it, and I will continue to have a really good time with it.
Oh, same here. I already bought the Season Pass. I'm getting all that DLC.
The game that gave me the most joy per hour spent playing it, however, the most fun and entertainment, the game that most took my breath away, a little indie title called Dropsy, which is a point-and-click adventure wherein you play a big, fat, horrifying clown whose only goal in life is to hug everything and make everyone feel good. I tell you that it is not weirdly subverted. This is not secretly a murder clown, because that's the one thing I wanted to look up before I started that game. I was like, are you guys going to pull a rug out from under me? Is it going to be like, he was an evil clown the whole time? Because I fucking love evil clowns. I do. But, like, that's the only clown anymore. And I also like regular clowns. But this game was whimsical. It had puzzles that challenged me, in terms of my critical thinking and decision-making. And I honestly think playing this game before I played Undertale is a lot of what did damage to Undertale for me. Because they are both games where you are encouraged to make nice with your enemies, and where all of the things you're doing are logic puzzles and decision-making points. I mean, and I feel like Dropsy did it better. It's got a fantastic soundtrack. It's got a beautiful, if not slightly grotesque, but well done art style. And it was a trip. I liked it. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
I didn't play it, so...
No. I've become much more of a PC gamer over the years, just because
he has Steam.
I have Steam. I'm over here, and they release games I want on PC. Like, Xbox One is supposed to be getting Electronic Superjoy later this month or the beginning of next month. I have already had that game for like a year.
Just keep on spouting that PC Master Race stuff,
no,
man.
I mean, like, if they would release it at the same time, I would probably buy it on Xbox, especially with games like fucking Electronic Superjoy, where it'd be a hell of a lot easier to control my character if I had a damn joystick. I can't figure out how to get the joystick to work on my computer, so that's why that. But, yeah, I went back and forth on that one, because Fallout is a really deep, good, interesting game, but fun per capita, that was Dropsy. That was
Steam, man. Gay Ben. Gay Ben has all the goodness.
Yep, big Gay Ben.
That's not...
I know.
That's not his name.
No.
He's not Gay Ben.
No. We could dream. I think really the last thing that we maybe should touch on as a year in review would be the wrestling.
I mean, like, we've had such a fun time.
Well,
I
don't want to get into
on
the
a depressing
nitty-gritty.
note?
We did a whole podcast about that. God, what is there left to say, though? I mean, I think we pretty much look at the previous podcasts. Probably also turn up the volume, because, I mean, it just says two nerds for about 45 minutes. You don't get much entertainment out of that.
Yeah, I mean...
So, yeah, I guess that being said, is there anything else you want to close us out with? Any last remaining thoughts you want to put out there in the universe?
In terms of the 2015 year in review, I would say, again, in terms of my little nerd bubble, because I don't leave it, it's better in here. Come join me.
You coming on to me?
I'm coming on to the listener.
Oh, alright. You hear that, Ultimo Dragon? He wants your Asai dick salt.
I bet you that would be really impressive if you could pull it off.
Dude, and if he just landed right in there,
that would be... see?
I'd applaud. I'd hold up a sign that had 10 on it.
I could be the one receiving it, I'd applaud. It would be, I mean, that would be just...
After you made the noise, ah!
Yeah, pretty much. But in terms of the 2015 year in review, I'd say good job, nerddom. Good job. Here's hoping you do better in 2016.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff coming in 2016 that's really gonna light my fire, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's more stuff coming in 2017, but I've got good hope for 2016.
Same here. Well,
that's a podcast.
This is why we've lived together as long as we have. We're both so aggressively lame. Listen, everything's better when nerds talk about it.
Fuck it, let's get home!